Welcome to Episode 39, Privacy by Design Fundamentals, where we set a clear foundation for protecting personal information from the first sketch of an idea to the final product in a user's hands. Privacy foundations matter because once data is collected, it is hard to uncollect, and the risks to individuals and organizations grow with every unnecessary field stored. Treating privacy as a design requirement keeps teams from bolting on controls late when changes are costly and fragile. It also aligns ethical responsibility with practical outcomes, like lower breach impact and fewer regulatory surprises. Think of a sign-up flow that only needs an email address, but asks for home address and birth date anyway. That decision becomes a long tail of risk. A solid foundation prevents that sprawl. It shifts daily choices toward restraint, clarity, and provable control in how data moves and rests. With that mindset, privacy becomes routine rather than rare. A lawful basis and a clear purpose limit what is collected and how it is used. Every data element should map to a stated reason that a reasonable person would understand. If the purpose is account access, then the lawful basis might be performance of a service, and the scope of use should not wander into unrelated advertising. Purpose limitation prevents quiet expansion where a single data set gradually becomes a catch-all. It also helps teams say no when a request is incompatible with promises made to users. A practical approach is to document each purpose in plain language and confirm that engineers and analysts can explain it without legal jargon. When people across roles share that clarity, decisions stay aligned. The result is fewer surprises and stronger trust. Default settings should favor privacy, especially for new users who have not yet learned the system. When a product launches with sharing turned off, location off, and profile visibility limited, users opt in to broader exposure, rather than being surprised by it. Defaults shape behavior because most people do not adjust them, so a respectful default becomes a lasting protection. Designers can present clear prompts that explain choices in ordinary language rather than buried toggles. Engineers can implement conservative retention and logging settings that can be expanded when justified. Product owners can track how users respond and refine the defaults to maintain value without over-collecting. A helpful test is to ask whether a cautious user would feel safe on first run. If the answer is yes, the default is probably aligned with privacy by design. Transparency notices set expectations before data moves, and that clarity prevents confusion later. A good notice is short, specific, and honest about what is collected, why it is needed, who receives it, and how long it is retained. It avoids vague promises like "may share with partners" and instead names categories and purposes that real people understand. The tone should be respectful and free of jargon so users can make an informed choice without legal training. Notices should live where decisions are made, such as near forms, settings, and checkout flows, not only on a separate page. Teams can measure comprehension by testing whether a user can paraphrase the key points after reading. When transparency is real, questions shrink and trust grows. Users know what to expect and are less likely to feel misled. Consent management requires more than a checkbox. It demands a reliable record of what was agreed to and a simple way to change that decision later. Capture should be specific to a purpose, easy to withdraw, and tied to a timestamp and user identity so records hold up under review. Revocation should be as easy as granting, with clear paths in settings or emails that lead to working controls. Consent should not substitute for minimization or lawful basis. It is one tool among several and must be used appropriately. Teams should avoid bundling unrelated purposes into one choice, which leads to all or nothing pressure. A practical pattern is to offer purpose-level toggles that default to off and remember the user's choices across devices. When consent is meaningful, it confirms respect rather than creating friction. Privacy risk assessments help teams look ahead and decide when extra controls are needed. Not every change requires a full study, so thresholds keep the process efficient and focused on higher-risk features. A short screening can ask whether new data types, sensitive categories, or large-scale processing are involved, and if so, a deeper review follows. The assessment should describe the nature of the data, potential impacts on individuals, and measures that reduce those impacts. It should also document alternative designs considered and explain why the chosen path balances value and risk. The output guides engineering, legal, and operations in practical terms that fit the product roadmap. By making this assessment a normal part of planning, teams normalize caution without slowing down thoughtful progress. Supporting data subject rights turns promises into service. Individuals may ask to access their information, correct mistakes, restrict certain uses, obtain a portable copy, or object to specific processing. Operational support means there are clear points of contact, identity verification steps, and predictable timelines to respond. It also means systems are designed to find, export, and delete records without manual hunts through scattered stores. A helpful approach is to maintain a data map that links each purpose to storage locations and owners so requests route quickly. Communications should be plain and respectful, explaining what will happen next and when. When rights are treated as a normal part of customer service, teams learn from the requests and improve systems to reduce friction the next time. Retention schedules and deletion triggers keep data from lingering past its usefulness. A good schedule ties each dataset to a purpose, a time limit, and a trigger that starts the clock, such as account closure or contract end. Deletion should be both logical and physical, meaning records disappear from primary stores and backup cycles retire them on a predictable horizon. Automated jobs reduce human error, and regular reports confirm that deletions occur as planned. Exceptions should be documented, time-bound, and reviewed by an accountable owner. Teams can also design systems to avoid indefinite logs by truncating or aggregating where detailed history is not needed. Practical retention discipline shrinks the footprint of risk and simplifies the response to incidents and audits alike. Third-party sharing requires controls that extend privacy beyond internal walls. Contracts should state what data is shared, how it may be used, how long it may be kept, and what security measures must protect it. Vendors should pass a basic review that checks reputation, safeguards, and their own subcontracting practices. Data should be limited to what the partner needs to perform the service, and periodic checks should verify that use remains within purpose. Technical measures can include tokenization, unique identifiers, or separated environments that reduce exposure. When teams track a clear register of partners and flows, questions become easier to answer and issues faster to resolve. Shared responsibility becomes a managed relationship rather than an assumption. Embedding privacy into the secure development lifecycle ensures that safeguards travel with the work from idea to release. Requirements capture must call out data needs plainly, so designers and engineers agree early on limits and protections. Threat modeling should include privacy misuse cases alongside security abuse cases, such as excess profiling or unintended linkage of identifiers. Code reviews can include checks for minimized fields, safe logging, and proper access controls. Testing should validate that settings, notices, and consent flows behave as promised. Deployment pipelines can block builds that introduce risky telemetry or missing retention hooks. When privacy is present in each stage, teams avoid late surprises and preserve momentum without sacrificing care. Evidence turns responsible claims into verifiable facts. Records of assessments, consent logs, notices displayed, partner reviews, and deletion reports form a chain that shows not only intent but operation. Screenshots, exports, and tickets provide concrete proof that requests were fulfilled, schedules ran, and settings remained in the protective state promised to users. Evidence should be organized, time-stamped, and linked to owners so it can be retrieved quickly when questions arise. Automation helps by generating routine reports that require little manual effort to maintain. When evidence exists as a byproduct of normal work, audits become less stressful and continuous improvement becomes easier to guide. The program gains credibility because results are visible. A resilient, compliant privacy posture grows from small, steady choices that favor restraint, clarity, and control. Teams define clear purposes, collect less, default to privacy, and communicate in terms people understand. They build assessments, rights handling, third-party checks, and lifecycle controls into daily routines so privacy becomes a shared craft rather than a special event. Evidence follows naturally because processes are predictable and measured. With this approach, products respect individuals and organizations reduce the blast radius of mistakes. Privacy by design is not a finish line. It is a habit that keeps systems worthy of trust as they evolve.